Not too long ago, I watched a movie called Don't Look Up. Now, this movie, as of right now, 2022, is very popular. And probably in the future, if you're looking back, watching now, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, that's a great documentary, right? And it probably will be a documentary. The movie centered around the idea that you have these two astronomers, I guess, scientists, who accidentally discover that there's a giant rock hurling its way towards the planet Earth. And if we don't do anything about that, we are about to get annihilated. And so, being the awesome people that these two scientists were, they decided to make sure that everybody knew about this and try to help do their part in trying to figure out how they can help prevent the disaster that would be the annihilation of the entire planet. And what ensued after that was a whole comedy of errors. Everybody was just complacent, ignoring, and not taking the issue at heart. And sad to say, the movie didn't end well. And I'll leave you to go look at the movie and watch it for yourself. Enjoy it, have a great time, and appreciate the documentary that it is shaping up to be, come 2050, 2030, or whatever. Hopefully not. But what I really took away from that movie is the anger I felt when I realized that the government, the businesses, they don't really care so much. It's all about, okay, well, there's a catastrophe about to happen. How can I best profit from this catastrophe that's about to happen? And that's really what it all boils down to. And so that the Supreme Court has decided in their infinite wisdom that Joe Biden's mandate that required, in large part, organization of 100 people or more to ensure that their staff get vaccinated was being nullified. But in the same breath, the Supreme Court decided, yeah, we can go ahead and require healthcare workers to all be vaccinated. It seems like a very contradictory situation. On one hand, they're saying no, businesses cannot be forced to do this. And then on the other hand, you can force the same businesses, albeit in a different industry, to require their workers to be vaccinated against COVID. It's like, what the frick is going on? Like, why? And then if you compare the two, you have one sector, which is the healthcare industry, which is relatively small. And then on the other hand, you have a more broader industry, which is the entire economy. And we're saying that we want these two groups to do their part so that we can get out of this COVID nightmare faster. But this is the most impactful group that we need to be trying to impact compared to the healthcare industry. Yes, the healthcare industry is already doing their part. They're already wearing masks. But if we don't allow everybody at large to wear masks, to get vaccinated, those infections are just going to compound over to the healthcare industry. So I thought to myself, okay, I need to calm down. There's no need to get my blood pressure off the roof, right? So I tried to look into this and try to understand what is their thought process for why they're deciding that individual businesses are not allowed to force their employees to get vaccinated and or get tested and or wear masks, whereas the healthcare industry should get vaccinated, be tested, or wear masks. What's the difference? Though Congress has indisputably given OSHA the power to regulate occupational dangers, it has not given OSHA that same power to regulate the public more broadly. Regulating vaccinations of 84 million Americans selected simply because they worked for employers with more than 100 employees, it certainly fails in the latter category. So whether or not we're going to be able to influence large organizations to do their part to try to curtail this COVID nightmare boils down to,
well, technically, Congress didn't give OSHA the power to regulate people's health care outside of, work. So therefore,
like, what the frick? Are you serious? So we're going to ignore the most horrendous infectious disease. We're going to ignore that entirely because of a technicality. We couldn't simply say, hey, right now this is an outrageous infectious disease. It's something that we haven't seen for quite some time. Let's go ahead and temporarily expand the scope of OSHA for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, until we are out of this mess. And then afterwards, we can then afford Congress the time needed to get their crap together to be able to pass proper legislation that gives adequate authority to whatever agency they think of to be able to handle such a crisis like this in the future. It's insane. So it brings me back to the movie Don't Look Up, where there's a legitimate threat to our very existence. And because of politics, and because of bureaucracy, because of technicality, we are all certainly going to die. I don't want to sound hyperbolic, but this is ridiculous. There is a clear and present danger in front of us, and we're willing to say no. Technically, this is not there. So therefore, let's allow this health crisis to continue. That sounds ridiculous and crazy to me. So I wanted to understand, what is the difference here? So it boils down to how the law was written. So with the healthcare industry and therefore healthcare workers, the way in which Biden structured the mandate was through HHSC, whereas the way in which Biden structured the mandate for businesses more broadly was through the OSHA regulatory body. So we already talked about OSHA, and essentially OSHA only has power within the workplace itself. Immediately after you clock out and leave, they no longer have any authority to regulate that environment anymore. Whereas with the healthcare agency, how Biden structured the mandate was through HHSC, has more broad authority to not only regulate the healthcare industry at large, but also compel workers, employers on how certain things must be done in order to receive funds related to Medicare, related to Medicaid, in essence, payment for services rendered. And so there's the difference. The larger issue remains, which is we're still in a COVID environment. Things are still getting worse. And by not having this in our bag of tools to try to curtail COVID, it's only going to make the situation worse. At best, it's going to make COVID last longer than it needs to. And at worst, this is going to be with us for a long time, and more people are going to die from this disease. I'm frustrated, I'm tired of COVID, and I'm sure you're tired of COVID too. I don't have a solution of what we can do about it, but wanted to make sure I share this message of at least an understanding of how this rule came about. But I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Am I justified in being outraged, even after understanding the reasoning behind how they made the decision? Do you agree with their decision? Let me know in the comments below. Still frustrated, my name is SolidusCode. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Check out my other videos.